This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are here in the mobile studio at the Consumer Electronics Show here in Las Vegas. We are wrapping up the show. It's been a great week. It's always a little exhausting by the time we get to the end of the week. Nothing like hanging out with more than 180,000 of your nearest and dearest friends for the annual migration to Las Vegas. And we've kind of made a habit of this for the last couple of CESs that we've been here with the studio, where we invite the host of CES, the team that runs the show, to kind of come in at the end of the show and share kind of their thoughts of the trends, what they're seeing, the update on what happened here at the show. And so this year, Rachel, I want to thank you for taking the time to join us here in the studio.
Thank you for sticking around for the last day of the show.
We're right up here till 4 o'clock. So Rachel, you're the communications director for the Communications Tech, or the Consumer Technology Association. I always want to say communications. I come from a communications background. But a lot of people don't realize the CTA affiliation with CES. They think the association is also called CES, I'm guessing. A little branding challenge sometimes.
Sure. So we have, we started as the Radio Manufacturers Association in the 20s.
Yeah.
And we have evolved just as the industry has evolved, right? Radios are no longer driving the tech industry. We were the Consumer Electronics Association until about 2015, and then we made a branding change to the Consumer Technology Association because we have 2,200 member companies across the tech ecosystem, and that word electronics didn't really fit our membership. So sharing economy platforms, ride-sharing services, home sharing, that doesn't really fit into electronics, and many of our other members also. So we switched our name to Consumer Technology Association. We kept CES because who doesn't know CES in the world? If they don't know it, they should know it. You're helping us promote it.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's still classified as the largest trade show in the world, right?
It is the largest tech and business event in the world. It is. This year, we broke all of our records. We are 2.9 million square feet of exhibit space. I mean, you think that you can't find more space in the city, and then our amazing team manages to find it.
And how many people, what's the official count? I keep hearing a variety of numbers. I want to hear what the official number.
We're really serious about the numbers because it's important for our exhibitors to know who their market is, who their audience is here. So we have an official audit. So that comes out in the spring.
Okay.
But what we know is that we're around 180,000, which is roughly where we were. I think last year our total was 182. I'm sure we're saying 180,000 this year.
That's why I always say more than 180,000. Yeah, exactly. But this year is also, though, the energy level is pretty high. There's some clearly extremely popular locations. We happen to be located, I can look out the window here and I'm looking at the two-story Google complex. And I just learned last night that they came in and they poured concrete in order to build this with steel beams.
Isn't that amazing? Shows you the true commitment to CES.
It's a little insane.
Yeah.
Because I also learned about the process that they're going to have to go through to get that removed.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen. Yeah, that is a challenge, but this is the stage, right? This is the opportunity to get in front of. We have, of those 180,000 guests that we have here this week, we represent 155 countries from around the world, right? So come to Las Vegas for 1 week. I know this is a hard week of the year, this first week of January. But it's the chance to, the reason this is a good week for us to have the show is because it gives organizations like Google time to get set up ahead of time because it's a quiet convention season going into the holidays. So that's why our exhibitors can set up these amazing spaces throughout the show floor. And then, you come, you spend 4 days with us. You get the average attendee has 33 meetings while they're here. So you get your business done for the year. You don't have to spend your time traveling around the world taking all these business meetings. You can find retailers, you can find partners, you can find investors. And then you go home to your family after.
Yeah, well, that is the big thing, right? It's the comment that we hear from our guests this week, or here, at the show that we've had on the radio, is the ability to have these kinds of meetings and not have to do all of that travel. So what's kind of the trends you saw this year as part of, because there's some new things here.
Yeah.
Flying car being the Bell thing.
Yes,
that obviously
that
was
flying
extreme.
quadcopter. That's amazing. Hyundai has a walking car, which is like totally
Yeah,
wild.
it's on 4 legs or whatever.
Yeah, but in an emergency situation, when you need to get to let's say there's a natural disaster and there's no road there, there's no pavement, this car can walk over to where it needs to get to and then plop back down. I also heard, I haven't seen it yet, but in the Sands Convention Center in Eureka Park, which is the startup zone, I read that there's a car that can convert into a drone, an autonomous flying drone. So, you can go from it's like, you can go from land to air. I want to check that out. I'm going to go there this afternoon.
Well, because on Monday or Tuesday mornings, I host a private tour on the show floor before the show floor opens. And so it's the CEOs and that. And it's kind of a fun thing. We took them down to see the Bell thing. And it was kind of amazing, seeing all these CEOs get all excited about this.
That's a great display.
Oh, it's a phenomenal display. It really makes it real when you think about, what is the future going to look like. I think one of the questions that, we get a lot is okay, what's the new hot thing here at CES? And it gets to be a little harder every year. You got 4K to 8K to 16K displays. Display manufacturers dominate the show floor with Samsung and LG and Sony. But what I think is most interesting, though, is actually the smaller companies who are not on the main path, who are actually bringing some of the more interesting new breakthrough things.
So one of the really exciting areas of the show floor is called Eureka Park. It's over in the Sands Convention Center. It grows every year. We have 1,200 startups this year in that area from around the world. And this is the place where if you have this is sort of one of the special ideas behind CES that drives the show and keeps it exciting. If you have an idea and you're committed to it and you can build a prototype and it, fits within this consumer technology sphere, we have a space for you here at CES, right? So the goal is that it shouldn't be cost prohibitive for anybody with an idea to be able to come to CES. So in Eureka Park, it's like an entry level fee, it's a startup fee, and the booths are 10 by 10, they're packed together. It feels very different than what you see in the convention center with these big, amazing displays. And you go and you bop from booth to booth and you just see the most amazing technology. So I was over there yesterday. Some of them you may never see again. Some of them you want immediately in your house. Some of them are so simple that you think, why hasn't anybody come up with that yet?
Right.
There was a company there from the Netherlands, from Holland. They created a little ring that you put on your finger. It's Bluetooth enabled, and it pairs with your phone or it pairs with your laptop. There's not even a USB port, and your finger becomes a mouse. So you put this little ring on, and this is your main clicking finger, and that's your second clicking finger on a mouse. I want that. That's so easy. Of course, that's just one less thing when I'm, traveling for work and schlepping around and I don't want to pack my mouse. I want the ring. And you can get the ring. I think the ring is on Indiegogo now. So some of these things that I don't know how that would get a platform like it gets at CES in any other way.
Well, and actually this is interesting because we had the people in from Tactigon Skin. They're over in Eureka Park. Yeah. So this is a controller. The example they have over there is using this as a game controller, but the same thing. They've got a working prototype. They've got it here over at Eureka Park, and they're talking within the next 60 days they'll be doing their crowdfunding either on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. They're still trying to figure out which platform they want to raise their money on.
So I would love to dive into the tech trends of the show, but I think the biggest theme and what's most amazing about this year's show and every year is that the technologies we're seeing are designed to make your life easier, better, simplify things, fewer things to have to carry around, fewer gadgets, just all of the innovations on the show that delight me are the ones that are going to make my commute easier, make it easier to get dinner on the table to my kids that tastes better and is properly cooked. Like get, just like help me throughout the day, make me more productive at work, make me able to like, help my kids learn to code so that, things that just like streamline your day rather than add to the clutter of your day are the ones that make me excited.
Exactly. As we come back after this quick break, let's talk a little bit about some of the trends. 'Cause things are changing in the marketplace, but not just in the U.S., but on a global basis also. You talked a little bit about the number of international companies that are coming here. And we actually had a conversation with a couple of our guests earlier in the week about, why CES versus all the other trade shows that are out there. So it'd be interesting getting your feedback on that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. And don't go anywhere. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. So, Rachel, when we were going into the commercial break, we were going to talk a little bit about the technology trends. So, one of the things that the CTA does is really take a look at your membership base, and you have kind of a unique, almost view, kind of availability of information, I guess I would call it, as to what are some of those trends and some of the changes that are coming.
Yeah, so I would say two of the biggest themes that we're seeing at the show this year, buzzwords, and you see them across the show in different applications, are AI and 5G. Right? I mean, how many products have you seen that are AI enabled?
I think it's a requirement in that you have to have the word AI and 5G somewhere on the outside of your sign, or nobody comes into your booth to be able to talk to you.
So everything is now sensorized, connected, collecting data, and and analyzing it to customize experiences for you. And you're seeing it across the board from in our in the digital health space. It's huge. In the lifestyle space, I mean, this is a silly product, but this is another one that I just wanted to bring home with me if they have extras. Neutrogena has this 360 skin mask thing where they take a picture of your face with a smartphone. You take a picture of your face. It 3D scans your face. It's like visiting the dermatologist digitally. And then you can print out a 3D printed mask with the gels that you need for different areas of your face, like, so that because everybody's skin is different. Everybody needs different things. And I just don't like, so those are really simple applications of AI. Like, what do I need that's different than what you need? And, that are in people's homes, but you're also seeing it in smart assistants, and of course we're seeing, we're seeing Amazon and Google here at the show, and Alexa and Google Voice integrated, Google Home, now I'm blanking on the name of what they're calling their voice assistant. Anyway. We could go across the street. And integrate into just about everything, as well as some of the other players that are here at the show doing the same thing. And so smart connected homes. We're seeing Ring has a really cool doorbell. I don't know if you saw this. Ring creates this doorbell thing, right. So the device you can see who's at your front door. Well, if you're living in an apartment, or you don't own your place, you can't start like installing and drilling into the walls. They've created something that goes into the peephole of your door that acts as a Ring doorbell assistant, and it's motion detected. And if somebody knocks on the door, you can connect with them. So again, like they're seeing what consumers want. They're seeing what their audience want. People want this device, but not everyone can use it in its first iteration. And so they're finding ways to develop for the market that they.
Yeah, the healthcare one is interesting because we're seeing a lot of. The wearables obviously is becoming a big deal. I think, with Apple, with the Apple Watch, kind of the quality of the health benefits side of these wearables is taking off. And I don't know if you know Tim Bajarin, but he's one of the probably top 3 analysts in Silicon Valley. But Tim was telling us about a watch that he saw here at the show that actually is one of the first watches that can do blood pressure. So you touch the watch and the band actually shrinks around your wrist.
Wow. Takes
your blood pressure and then releases it. It's for people, Tim's very open. He had quadruple bypass 4 years ago. So he'll be the first to admit he's kind of in my age category. He's got his grandkids, his granddaughters. And, he says, look, after you have had that experience of having severe heart attack situation and being saved, because you get real serious about your health.
Yeah.
And he says, so he's scouring CES for all kinds of the medical devices, and now diabetes, being able to do it with the patch. There's a new company over at Eureka Park that's got a new ability to do continuous blood glucose measurement. And so you talk about the fact that the gadgety stuff is interesting. Everybody's oohing and eyeing over the LG rollable 4K TV. I was over there on Tuesday. That loved it. Not from my house. I don't think my wife would ever allow me to bring that home. I'd love it. Wouldn't make it past the front door. But then there are these devices though that can transform. And I remember back when I was CTO at HP, I had the accessibility technology team as part of my organization. And back then with CES, the healthcare segment was pretty small, and we were kind of, that team, was part of a very small community here at CES, but it's tucked away on a corner at one of the remote sites. Now it's becoming, a big area.
So what's so incredible about the digital health innovations we're seeing at the show is, the big story is it gives people greater control of their health and wellness, right? So as you just said, your friend, he can keep a daily check of his blood pressure without having to bug his doctor or worry that he doesn't know the answer at all. And especially, for older adults, it's allowing them to age in place.
Yep.
With dignity and feel like people can, there's fall detection services that are incredible. Remote monitoring, pill, if there's sensors in beds to make sure that you're sleeping properly and send an alert to people if they detect abnormality. So those technologies. I'm somebody with parents who are getting older, and and I live 300 miles away. So to be able to keep an eye on them remotely is it feels good for them. It feels good for me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the level of competition from startups and established companies is interesting. We had the CEO for Sharky, the hearing aid manufacturer, right? Sharky's been around forever. They're kind of the hearing aid guys, right? Well, hearing aids are typically associated with older population, but you can look at it and look at what they're doing. For instance, what they've announced here at CES is a result of competition, right? They're seeing what device manufacturers are doing, and it steps up everybody's game. So CES almost becomes the Super Bowl of how do I one up everybody else. And some of the attempts to one up are a little silly and a little stretch a little bit, but I think it raises the bar for everybody,
the whole industry. And the other awesome thing, so this week for the first time at a tech event, doctors and medical professionals can earn continuing medical education credits by coming to CES.
Really?
Which is incredible, because I want my doctor to know about these technologies, right? Like that, how else are they going to learn about them? And there are some great products on the show floor for pain management without drugs. That's a national epidemic we can solve with technology. And doctors are here seeing those technologies and how they work. And so this show gives me hope. There's a lot of dark stuff happening in the world.
Exactly.
But this show gives me hope because you see the technologies that are transforming our world.
Yeah, and you're right about the fact that you can come to CES, you can find something for anybody. Whatever your interest is, you're going to find something here to feed, whether it's something that's a personal passion.
Or your beauty mask.
I'm not so sure I'd be wearing a Neutrogena beauty mask. My wife may want one. The beard doesn't work all that well with the beard. But yeah, you could find something for everybody here at the show, which is great because it's like you said, though, it's the one time a year we can all come together. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Rachel, talking about the Consumer Electronics Show here at 2019. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. Welcome back to Killer Innovations. We're continuing our conversation here at CES. So, Rachel, we were talking about some of the interesting technologies, and during the commercial break, we were, talking more about the startups and the CTA. And during this week, we've had a number of guests on the show that are from outside of the U.S. coming to CES. They really see CES as kind of their launch platform. The challenge, though, with CES, though, becoming so large, It gets harder and harder, though, for companies to get above the noise level because everybody's announcing.
I think you gotta plan your show. Attendees have to plan their show, exhibitors have to plan their show, media do, because we're across 3 different venues, right? So the Las Vegas Convention Center, the Sands Expo Center, and then the ARIA for our C-Space program, which we haven't even talked about. It's like a whole other section of the show. But we do try to segment it into these marketplaces so you know that all of the health tech devices are in one place. All of the auto exhibits are in North Hall, right? So, but you need to plan your day and you need to set up your, I mean, it's just, you can have a great show if you use your time wisely, right?
Right. Well, and it's interesting because, I used to have a regular column in Forbes magazine, right? So I should have been smarter about this 10 years ago when I registered as media at one time and put my real email address in to the system. So every company has me as a Forbes reporter, right? So starting at Thanksgiving as a reporter, your mailbox just explodes. And for a lot of these companies, though, they just think they can send a press release out, and that's their launch.
I think, well, I mean, we see it just, you have to be creative in how you market to people and reach people. And there is something about the serendipity of the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes walking around, you will just like find the most amazing thing.
Exactly.
But there are companies that are really clever and creative in how they market themselves. I mean, Google, everybody knows Google, but what they're doing out there is incredible. And it makes a difference that you look at that exhibit space and it just looks like nothing you've ever seen before and leaves a mark. That ride is an awesome way to capture people's attention for a set period of time as they're going through and tell the Google story.
Yeah, so just to give you context, this is a 2-story building. I'm sitting here looking out the window of the studio right onto the Google building. But it literally is an amusement ride. You're in a 2-person capsule on a roller coaster like you're at Disneyland. And it takes you from room to room to room and tells the Google story. And
that's creative, right?
And the line, because we can sit here and look at the line has never been less than 90 minutes.
Yeah.
To get in since the opening of the show.
But you don't have to be a Google to have a successful show. So there's a company called Benji Lock, started by a guy named Robbie Cabral. He's a CTA member. He's a great guy. He moved to the United States. He sort of had some like a down on his luck story. He started going to the gym to sort of take some ownership back over his life and realized he needed a better gym lock and he wanted an easier gym lock. And so this is a guy who, as his first product, he created a lock that you unlock with your thumbprint. And he got a space in Eureka Park last year, maybe 2 years ago. I think it was last year. And the Shark Tank executives walked through, saw him, brought him on the show. And Kevin O'Leary, the Shark Tank shark, saw it, loved it, invested in it. And he's now, they're working together. The product is now available on QVC. It's available in multiple, like Ace Hardware and other retailers. They're working on version 2. So it just, if your idea is great and simple and clean and easy to explain, like that goes a long way too.
Right. Yeah, it is around the telling the story. Some of the companies you walk around here and you after a 10-minute conversation, you still haven't figured out what it is they do, right? It is about keeping it simple and keeping it clear. So what are some of we talked a little bit about, the fact that you guys are really sticklers for the numbers, so you'll release the number in the spring on the actual count. I can tell you, at least from last year to this year, definitely the energy level seems to have clearly stepped up here in intensity. What other stats can you share with us from the show here?
Well, we have 6,500 members of the media here, which is awesome. About a third of our attendees are international, which is a great stat for us. One area of the show floor that we haven't talked about that draws about 25,000 people is our C-Space area over at the ARIA. And that's for marketers and the brand and advertising community. And we've coupled it this year with our sports zone. So, it's talking about next generation partnerships. It's talking about building stadiums to improve the fan experience. We're talking about how to we had a whole CMO conference track over there. A lot of the companies here at CES, by their brands. How to keep those brands engaging and how to, and brand loyalty and reaching new audiences is a real challenge. So over on our Sports Zone stage, we had a big announcement with Twitter's CEO, Jack Dorsey, and the head of the NBA, Adam Silver.
Adam Silver.
They announced that they're going to start not just live streaming NBA games, but they're going to live stream them on Twitter, and then fans can vote on which player they want to see the game through, like sort of focus on one player for the second half of the game. So it's like fan engagement. You say, I want to watch, so I'm, or my husband should be sitting here, and he would just like name a basketball player, and I would say, that's right, whoever that is. He goes, I want to watch.
Curry from the.
Thank you. I want to see Steph Curry
from the Wizards,
and
right?
then you'll watch the game from Steph Curry's perspective for the second half. Like that's really cool, and like it's just again, it's all about like personalization. How technology like Twitter can really drive community building and fan engagement. They're doing some great things over at C-Space.
Yeah, and that's actually, to be quite honest, we have not made it over to the area. The problem is now it's just getting around Las Vegas can be a real interesting challenge given the traffic and what's going on. What other interesting companies did you've seen here at the show that we should know about?
Where I want to go after this is, and I love this, so I don't want this to end, but when it does, I'm going to walk over to the Sony booth. I was told by a reporter that they have a high-end audio experience that made him cry. So high-res audio has been we've seen high-res audio at the show. MP3s and the quality of sound has actually degraded over the years, right? So it's much more portable. It's easier to take it with you on the go, your whole record catalog, but some of the sound, we've lost some sound quality. Mm-hmm. And there is a movement in the industry to bring some of that back. So to bring it back in high-res audio. I don't know whether what Sony is showing is high-res audio, but I want to go check it. Last year, I tried on a pair of like $100,000 headphones. Amazing. It sounded great. It felt like being in a symphony hall. But this is apparently a room. This is room audio with like the highest levels of audio quality. So
yeah, well then Dolby has their Atmos audio, which they're showing, which that's a little bit of overkill because Atmos can support 150 speakers in a room. It's used for theaters, but now they announced here that they can get it down into for your living room. Still pretty pricey for the average consumer, unless you're like a really serious audiophile.
Well, this is a show full of some non-traditional tech exhibitors. Well,
it was interesting because I was going over for a meeting yesterday afternoon, walking through one of the halls, and I was laughing. It was a mid-afternoon meeting, right? And you always have that. There's always this one exhibitor. I don't know who it is. Can't even remember the name of it. But they've been here at CES forever, where they literally have like 75 massage chairs, right, sitting on the floor.
People love those massage chairs. There's a couple different sections of them. People love them.
They love them, and you can tell you're hitting like that 3:00 mark, and the line to get into one of those massage chairs is like going on forever.
That's telling, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like, okay, I gotta. I've only done half this floor.
This chair is pretty comfortable.
I got to rejuvenate, right? Yeah, but it was funny because they were just queued up to try to get into one of those massage chairs, and it's like every year I see those guys, and everybody's interested in their innovations. So if people are interested in kind of keeping up on CTA and CES and what you guys are doing, because you guys are doing not just this, you have other events throughout the year. What's the best place for them to track you down?
So if you weren't able to join us in Las Vegas this week, you can go to ces.tech, TECH, and you can watch the keynote videos. Some of our other panel videos are up there. Some of our book club interviews are there. So you can sort of get a sense of what we were talking about here at the show this year. Follow us on Twitter. We have an amazing social team. Our Twitter and our Instagram are a wonderful resource for what's going on minute to minute. And then on the CTA side, if you go to cta.tech, that's where we talk about all the policy issues that we're working on, what we're doing with our members, for our members, our member events, how to get involved with us as a trade association.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. So with that, we're going to wrap up this show. Don't go anywhere. Segment 4, we'll have a new episode of 5 Minutes to New Ideas where we ask you a question that could challenge you to think about your opportunities or your problems in a unique and different way. So we'll be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Killer Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network. This segment of the show I call 5 Minutes to New Ideas. Designed for the creative mind looking for that next great idea. Each episode will challenge you to think differently about yourself and your business by asking unique, funny, and sometimes crazy questions. Get your notebook out and be ready to uncover that game-changing idea. Here is 5 minutes to new ideas. Once a product is sold, it's pretty much out of your control. You may have an idea why people will buy it and what they will do with it, but the most you can ever do is just guess. So why are you assuming that you know what your customers actually likes and values about your product and how they use it to solve problems they have? One of my favorite blogs to read when I have downtime is IKEAhackers.net. IKEA Hackers is just what it sounds like, a place where people can show off the ways in which they have repurposed and customized IKEA products. Some of the hacks are pretty impressive for a DIY home engineer. Example, hanging a bed frame to the wall so it can flip up like a Murphy bed. Others are similar and much simpler, in fact, such as using printed curtains as fabric for a dress. Still others just are creative genius. For example, the financially strapped parents of baby twins who created a feeding station by cutting 2 baby seat-sized holes in their IKEA kitchen table probably deserves a job in the design and innovation department at IKEA. These hackers are an extreme and sometimes funny example of unanticipated uses, but I use them here to reinforce an important point. It's easy to lock yourself into thinking that you fully understand who is using your product and how they are using it. There's the reason the question, quote, "Who is my customer?" end quote, is not a killer question. It sets you up to get an obvious and easy answer rather than forcing you to look outside of what you know to be true about the people who use and appreciate your products. I myself have experienced this disconnect between how I assume my product is used and how it is actually used. My wife and I had a favorite bakery near where we lived in Silicon Valley. The bakery was a small operation that makes great cakes and cupcakes. It's one of those places where there's always a line out the door on Saturday afternoon, and my wife loved to take her time, which means that I spent a lot of time there too. Now back around 2010, we stopped in to grab a quick snack. As we contemplated vanilla versus chocolate, I noticed an HP TouchSmart set up on the corner of the counter. Now naturally, I went over to check it out. Now, the TouchSmart was the first PC that users could interact with by touch. It's got a ton of applications. A busy, overscheduled family can use it as a hub computer for the home, running their calendars off of and coordinating and communicating with one another. My wife uses hers while she cooks. She goes online to find recipes and coupons or to check her email. Sometimes she entertains friends with a streaming music or plays mahjong while they hang out in the kitchen. Designers and artists, such as the contestants on Project One Way, can use it to digitally sketch out images and ideas that need to be easily and instantly shared. However, in all our design and marketing meetings, it had never occurred to us that the TouchSmart could be used as a customer-facing kiosk in the retail market. Yet this is precisely what the owner of the bakery had done. He had bought a TouchSmart and had written his own simple sales application. Each image, be it chocolate brownie or a 3-tiered wedding cake, click through to an ordering screen. The customer could customize their orders at their leisure and place it without waiting in the extremely long lines that this bakery had. I was impressed, to say the least, and stunned that we had missed such an obvious use for something we'd worked so hard on. In the following weeks, I shared the story with anybody who would listen and suggested them to go to the store and try it out for themselves. The teams took that input and developed a TouchSmart version that would support a kiosk offering. Today, if you go into Sam's Club or visit Chicago O'Hare Airport, you'll see the TouchSmart kiosks in action. So what should you take away from this story? The person buying your product doesn't see it as an end solution. They see it as a tool that will help them solve their problem. For example, I hate this tiny bakery. I can't hold or display everything I'm capable of offering. I'm losing out to bigger competitors. When I physically print out pictures and put them in a photo album for my customers, they get grimy, dirty, unappealing in a matter of weeks, yet I don't have the time to swap out the pictures on a regular basis. I need something simple and efficient that will showcase my wares, take orders when I'm too busy. That's the problem for this bakery. Your customer looks at what you're developing as a tool for them to achieve their objective. I love being surprised on the job, and our local bakery showed me something I'd never considered. Now its owner doesn't think he did anything that interesting. To him, it's a completely logical way to address his need. The fact that it never occurred to us to offer a TouchSmart as the solution didn't stop him from figuring it out for himself. So, figuring out who uses your product in a way you never intended can unlock new opportunities you would have never considered. You want to potentially double your sales? Go out there and ask yourself, who is using my product in a way I never intended, and how are they using it? Now don't stop there. Ask yourself, what problems, needs are you looking to address? Are you so tightly focused on what you believe your customers' problems and needs to be that you are missing out on potentially huge opportunities? How could you identify existing customers and observe how they use your product? Is there a way to give your potential customers an opportunity to play with and use your product without giving them specific parameters for how, when, and why they should use it? What ideas do they come up with? If you are willing to listen, your customers will tell you what they see as the value from what you are offering. I'm Phil McKinney, and thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join in. If you have any comments or suggestions, drop me a note over at phil@killerinnovations.com. Now, the reason I've been doing this show since 2005 is to pay back my early mentor by paying it forward. My first mentor, Bob Davis, invested an immense amount of time in training and coaching me, which had a major impact on my career. When I went back and asked him how I could pay him back, he just laughed and said I couldn't. I had to pay it forward. If I could ask for a favor, could you help me pay it forward? How? 1, give us a rating wherever you get your podcast, as that helps spread the word. And 2, by telling others about the show. This episode of Killer Innovations was produced by the Innovators Network. You can find the show notes and the entire show catalog over at killerinnovations.com. I'll talk to you next week. In the meantime, go out and change the world with your killer innovation. Bye-bye.